I'm Liz Rogers.
And I'm Jeff Duke.
This is the 2 and 5 podcast, where every week we're talking about love,
life, and family.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube.
Stay tuned.
I'm Liz Rogers.
And I'm Jeff Duke.
And this is Breathing Room on the 2 and 5 podcast.
Well, I will let you kick off Breathing Room.
This is probably one of the hardest episodes that we will share with everybody because it was a very challenging point for us. I think most people see us on social media and that know us and know our relationship, see the really beautiful, happy points, all the highs of our relationship together. But I think that part of the reason that our relationship is so strong is because we've also experienced tremendous challenge. And this was probably the most challenging point in our relationship. So Fat Tuesday was the next step. And we decided that our families were going to meet at Fat Tuesday, one of my favorite times during Mardi Gras season. And Jeff came down with the kids.
But prior to coming down, so I came Fat Tuesday, if you're not up on Mardi Gras, was the last day of the Mardi Gras celebration, and the Lent season starts the following day. So Liz, living in Galveston, her parents came down for another Mardi Gras.
Not just my parents, my whole parents, family, aunts, uncles, cousins, so many friends in town. It really, in my eyes, was the best time for Jeff to ever meet everybody because
I wouldn't meet
we're all
your parents, but what'd your dad tell you?
That's right. So my parents were down for Mardi Gras, and they had heard about this Jeff Duke character, and
for the Valentine's Day.
They knew about the Valentine's Day, and I saw my parents, and my dad hugged me, and he just immediately looked at me and said, "You're going to marry him, aren't you?" And I just rocked back on my heels, and I said, "Well, I think so." And he said, "I never thought you'd get married again." And I said, "Neither did I." But my whole family just had this undercurrent that there was something very different about our relationship. And they were very, very excited to meet him and to get to know him better. So
I come down with my kids, meet with Liz and her son, and let them meet for Fat Tuesday. And we'd been on the phone, like, kind of very sleep deprived a little bit, or I was anyway, and I think she was too, to a certain degree, because she has a marketing company that was running floats and promotions for businesses in Mardi Gras, and so that didn't help when we're staying up on the phone till 3 a.m. every night because we live 2.5 hours apart. So
our night did not unfold very well. There was way too much alcohol and a lot of confusion on both sides of our kids' points of view about who we were. And it became very apparent that we had not prepared our kids for meeting each other the way that we should have. And so it was fairly disastrous, would be a good way to put it. After Fat Tuesday, the morning of Ash Wednesday, I told Jeff, we need to have a talk. We need to have a hard talk.
Yeah. So when we ended Fat Tuesday that night, it wasn't like a fight, but it was definitely not as planned. And
I think we were both discouraged because we had, enormous expectations of how well the night would go, and it didn't.
And so I'm staying with my kids at the San Luis, and it was one of the with the condo rentals there. And I had got pretty smashed at Mardi Gras, and so I wake up that morning, and me and Liz have a poet that she usually texts the morning poem, and the poem was, "Of course I'm emotional. I'm by water." and I text And so I went to take a shower and get done. And we're huge coffee drinkers, and so I'm, the morning after putting a few back, maybe a headache, you need some coffee and a hot shower. And there was no coffee in this hotel room, and there was no hot water in the shower or shower pressure. And so I am the morning after Mardi Gras, and things are
Sad cowboy. He was a sad cowboy. So Jeff and I had a really foundational talk that morning about the importance of self value and sort of the things that we had been through, and, returning to those things that were really important to us, and that I had been planning that Lenten season to give up alcohol and to give up drinking. And I told him, there's no, I'm not suggesting you do this, but I am suggesting that you give Lent an opportunity to work in your life, because I believe very strongly in the power of the Lenten season, and all of the meaning that's behind it, and the period of self reflection that is so instrumental to Lent. And I had actually not, I had been feeling it some sort of way about giving up drinking. I didn't want to give up drinking. I had tried to talk myself out of it a million times. And so I told my teenager that that's what I was doing, because I knew if I verbalized it and spoke it out loud into his life, that I wouldn't change my mind about it, that I would never let him down or go back on my word to him. And so I had spoken that out. Jeff and I left that morning. We parted ways, and I told him that I just thought we needed some breathing room to figure things out, and to see what would happen during Lent.
the where we left it. I mean, I honestly didn't know where we stood. I mean, it was a,
Yeah.
it wasn't this is over, but it wasn't a we're going forward either. And I was hungover, and at that point, my kids and my nanny were next door. We're at the San Luis in Galveston at the, what's the name of it? The restaurant?
IHOP.
No, the one we
The
were.
grotto. Yeah.
Yeah, we were at the grotto. They were next door at the IHOP, and I left there again, headache. Walked over there. I didn't know where we were standing, but I knew Liz was pushing the let's give up. But at that point, again, I didn't know where we were standing. I'm moving in a restaurant. We have all these things. I'm not doing that. And so I get to the IHOP, and my kids are there. And traditionally, I was raised in a very Catholic town in Louise, Texas, but I was Protestant, and so, um, but my kids went to a Catholic school, St. Philip's in El Campo. So, they talk about the Lenten season and what that means, and so they were talking about what they were giving up for Lent, which is, you know, pretty profound. And there was a seed God putting in me just right then, and they also right across the street from the IHOP in Galveston is the beach, and so they were all wanting to go to the beach. And again, this is February, which it wasn't that cold. But I mean, it wasn't. Go swim in the water. It's not a tourist time, so like there was nobody on the beach. The beach was completely empty, and but I didn't want to go. I just wanted to go home, maybe get a little hair of the dog, and uh, get rid of this hangover. But we twisted my arm, and so we go to the beach, and they're playing, and it's very overcast, kind of beautiful. The sun's kind of hidden, and but then kind of popping through at places, and it was a time of just very, and it wasn't planned. It was just something. And I said this afterwards, and I believe this today. A lot of our story, a lot of it, God wanted me on that beach at that moment in time. Like that was, I think, part of my journey and my plan, or for His plan for me. And so the kids are playing, and I've got my phone out taking pictures, and I've got this picture, and we'll put it up on the website. But my daughter Grace was kind of far off, and you can if you don't zoom in, you can't see her, but there was this light, the sun peeking through, and it was very profound. It just I felt the spirit of God just talking to me and just saying, "Look, you're at this point in the road of you can have great happiness or great um, misery and anger." Because I had a lot of anger I was carrying with me at that point, and I felt a release from it at that when I knelt on the beach and prayed, and then it just I was convicted driving home that I was going to go, and not for Liz, but for me, that I was going to give up because I didn't know where we were with Liz. I wasn't doing this to get her favor. I was doing this because I was convicted to do so from the divine. And so I went home and I kind of got, we were building a restaurant. So seafood play at the Warrior University in El Campo. They practice. They one of the things they train is qigong, is Chinese medicine, and again, I had anger that was released, and you, there's a transverse relationship between the liver and anger. So, if you're angry, if you have a bad liver, it may make you angry, but it's it's if your anger is stored in your liver, and so you're when you quit drinking, if you've been drinking a lot, which I had, leading up to that, things can come out of that. And so we went through some meditational things and qigong, and it was very very powerful because there's a spiritual element to it. But uh, yeah, so the Lenten season, but we started our journey of giving up alcohol, and I text Liz and let her know at 2 o'clock, and she said that's great. And I said something else on the text, and she said good evening. And I was like, and I didn't hear from her for a few days.
Well, I think we both felt that there was a lot of that this was a very big turning point for us, and that like how we treated this would very much be an example of how we treated conflict in our relationship, and what was a priority to both he and I, and would we be able to prioritize one another, because you can say all of those things, but until you walk them and until you follow through with the actionable piece of that, it's just lip service. And so I wanted to believe that, that we could walk through this together. And it wasn't so much about, the alcohol as much as it was making priorities and making changes, and how would you receive that change. And I think most of us are used to, when there's conflict, either becoming very defensive or being in a situation where the other person is very defensive about their actions or behavior. And one of the things that I love so much about Jeff is that he's incredibly humble and accountable to self about, when we fight, one of our core values is to fight well and to always just be accountable for our own actions and behavior and our part in the conflict. And I wanted to see how this would go. I also, in a selfish way, wanted to see how I would react in this. It was a very big change for me and in many ways, and I was curious, but I felt like if I opened the door to us going right back to communicating the way that we had been with that frequency and intensity, that we would miss the opportunity to have that space in our lives and that margin to really explore
Breathing room.
breathing room.
Yeah, I thought it was over. So and
Just
so
like
and
breathing
so
room to me was
so
we're
I'm
broken up.
so I'm back training at the Warrior University this time, feeling better. And it's been a few days since I got a homily. I still remember it's rewriting the script.
Yeah.
Liz sent me that Sunday a homily. There's a Hallow app that we still listen to this.
Absolutely. There's a Catholic app with a priest that we adore. His name is Father Mike Schmitz, and he gives a homily every Sunday. And I can remember it to this day, that homily, and about flipping the script, and that you have the opportunity to make changes in your life, and that Lent is not a period of subtracting something out of your life or deprivation, but creating space that you can therefore fill with spirituality and faith and God's word and God's promise. And so I sent that to Jeff because it intrigued me and I knew he would appreciate it too.
Oh, so it was spot on message I needed spiritually, but it was also like, oh, maybe it's not over. So there's hope.
There's still hope. And I got a call a few weeks later that Mark Protka, the patriarch of the Protka family, was having a birthday party and had especially requested the margarita cocktail that our friend, the consultant, had created. And so she asked, would I want to come up and help hand deliver?
Well, we were also doing a menu test for the restaurant, and that's part of it too. I mean, we were using Mark's birthday to have our chef cook the dinner.
That's right. Yeah.
And you were there to take pictures for the marketing.
Pictures for marketing. And
so I'm excited to see it.
We showed up that day, and I assumed I would see Jeff there. I really did, and I was sort of bracing for how I would react to that and what our interaction would be. And in true Protka family style, there was an interesting cow exploding.
So I roll out to Lane City, and I said, where is everybody? And they say, they're blowing a dead cow up. So
I showed up, and they said, thank God the marketing girl's here. We need you to video this. So there was a dead bull out in the pasture, and everybody wanted to blow up.
It was bloated. It was like
terrible.
And so
we go
200 pounds of tannerite and a bear at 50 cal later.
Yeah. But I was out on the buggy in a pasture videoing and recording for posterity this blessed bull that was sacrificed, blew up for entertainment, and he was already dead. He was dead already. So, and
natural causes.
Turned around, and Jeff Duke was standing behind me, and I cannot describe to you how changed he was physically. Just his presence had changed, and I tell him, and I describe him as, I think I wrote you this later and said that you looked renewed, and he just was he was just changed. And I don't know, how do you explain that? I mean,
well, number one, I'm very project driven, and my project was the construction of the regulator. And on the Lenten journey, I at that time my beard was a lot more ungroomed, and my hair was kind of long, and I went and got a haircut, and then I was back in the gym, working out, and, in the Lenten journey of spirituality, and but I will say this at the Lanes, I would say that it was a very professional day at Lane City. There was nothing more than, we're your marketing firm, and I'm here for your restaurant.
I still wanted to maintain that this was, there's a reason that Lent is not just a week or a few days, and that's because it takes time to cultivate habits, and it takes time for self-reflection. And I think that, that awareness piece is really important. So I still wasn't comfortable being completely back into, us talking and back in the relationship. But it was so reassuring to me to see him, to physically set eyes on him, because he was just glowing. He was so new, and I could tell that God was working in his life, much like he was working in mine.
So her friend Holly goes and tells Holly all about it, and our friend Holly said, "Girl, one of the girls gonna get him if he's looking all good."
That's right. I know it. He was, always handsome, but he looked very handsome that day.
So that's episode 4, Breathing Room.
And you should stay tuned to episode 5, which is where I fell in love in Louise, Texas. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.